Today we are having the first episode of Women Creating Social Impact. Talking about products by women, we are a diverse global community network for women, especially in tech and beyond. So we have launched a new website at productsbywomen.com. So check out our new website to connect with peers, get matched with mentors, and find jobs beyond borders. And to attend our webinars, leadership lives, study circles, and company spotlight, we also have our event space with upcoming events, and we launch our monthly newsletter. So subscribe to our newsletter. And talking about the speaker, thanks Rupa for joining us. Rupa is an environmental policy expert. She has an engineering background and she has also worked in both public and private organizations. She is a strategic thinker and she uses analytical experience to frame and evaluate policies. And she has worked in clean energy, energy efficiency, transportation sectors, and thank you so much for joining, and it would be great for us to know your journey, what are the opportunities present in environment, and how the changes have been with respect to COVID.
Yep. Thank you, Srinidhi, for inviting me on this forum. I mean, Products by Women is a great networking and mentoring platform with such talented, dynamic women. I'm really happy to be here sharing my experiences with you all.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for joining. So you are an environmental policy expert with engineering background. So please share your journey with us more about your current role, how you leverage your engineering background to this role, and things like that.
Yeah, sure. So I did not plan to work in the climate policy field. I'm an engineer at heart, having started my career as a software hardware engineer in oil exploration and telecommunication industries. But when my kids were very young, I saw an opportunity and founded a company called Chirpiness that provided families with young children with an online resource that helped them find family-friendly activities and events and things to do based on like their ages and the type of activity that the families were interested in. And when I was doing that, when I was working on this business concept, I found that not many people even knew much about their local environment.
Right.
So I expanded this resource to also provide information on the local environment, and basically with the idea to create an appreciation and awareness of the nature around us.
Right.
So that's when I realized my passion for nurturing and protecting the environment around us, and it also reconnected with me with my childhood experiences. You see, growing up in Mumbai in times of rapid urbanization and economic growth in the 80s, I remember seeing the landscape of the city change so dramatically. From parks and streets lined with trees to factories spewing smoke and tall skyscrapers, right? So I also saw that my dad's asthma got worse with every passing year, and the local park where I used to play was practically turned into a dump yard. And actually, most notably, I remember there was a river that flowed north of the city, which we would love to to watch when we passed it. That was turning red due to effluents being dumped from nearby industries. So these had a profound impact on me as I really questioned what kind of price we are paying for economic prosperity.
Right.
So I decided to go back to school. I decided to study environment economics and policy, and kind of see how I could make a difference. So I worked as a research associate at Rutgers University, doing research on clean energy technologies. And for the past 4 years, I've been with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection as a research scientist, working on climate change and clean energy policies. So as far as leveraging my engineering background, I'll say that it's definitely been an asset.
Right.
I mean, training to become an engineer, you gain some valuable skills. You learn how technologies work. You gain, you get industry knowledge in addition to developing quantitative skills, analytical skills, and basically you're not intimidated by numbers and large data sets, right? So I found these skills to be quite valuable, especially since in my current job, I'm mostly around political scientists and environmental scientists, and well, even in policy making, really. I mean, there's always a component of evaluation, impact analysis, cost benefit analysis that that needs these skills.
Right.
So I've definitely benefited from them. So I would say, like, yes, my engineering background definitely has added value to the job that I do.
Right, right, right. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing your journey. So when you were talking about your journey, this just reminded of the simple story that when the turtles come from Atlantic Ocean to Indian Ocean to lay their eggs, initially they just used to go from the shore to the sea, just seeing the moonlight. And now with the advancements going on, they just confused with the street lights and the moonlight, and the eggs just get scattered and they just get eaten away by the dogs and the other scavengers around. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's sadly, like, yeah, there's sadly, like, yeah, I know our, we are modernization is like we are throwing off these really precious animals, right? Animals and
Right.
birds, and yeah, it is a problem,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, it is always important to maintain that right balance between being an environmentalist and especially with your engineering background. So, yeah, thanks
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sharing your journey. So, moving on. So, there are many areas, many different industries where women are trying to figure out their way and reach higher positions. There is also a saying that you perform better when you have more people that look like you. So, it is always important to bring in more women, even in the environmental field. So, I've heard in the environmental domains that it is easy to get into the field of environment, but it's a bit difficult to go higher up in the ladder. So, you have the experience of being in both public and private sectors. So, how are they different? Like, how does it feel like to be in both of these sectors?
Well, in my opinion, gender bias is not as pronounced in the environmental field as in other STEM-related fields.
Right,
I've come across many women leaders in state agencies, state environmental agencies, state energy agencies, and in fact, our own commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection. She's a woman, a very dynamic lady.
that's
I
nice.
see a lot of women in leadership positions, even in the private sector, nonprofit, NGO sector. For instance, Lynn Jurich, she's the founder of and president of Sunrun, which leases out solar installations on residential buildings. And then there's Erica McKee, who's the CEO of Grid Alternative, and which is the largest nonprofit solar installer, you must have heard. Then Inger Anderson is the executive director of United Nations Environmental Program. So there are a lot of women really who have leadership positions in this field. And I think, like, clean energy, renewable energy, these are relatively younger dynamic sectors.
Right,
And the challenges that you find based on gender differences are not as prominent as those that exist in traditional sectors. So I
right,
would say, if you want to or are looking to get into the field, my kind of advice would be, don't be shy of showcasing, of building your technical expertise, and do plenty of networking. And I'm sure, regardless, I mean, I'm sure you'll find success.
right, right. It's nice. Like when you list so many leaders, women leaders, especially, that just shows how well women have advanced in this environmental domain. Because not so many names come to the top of my mind unless people are actually achieving. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
nice.
true. That's true. And I feel like there are some sectors, there's some subsectors or some fields where I feel women are doing so well, especially in sustainability, in education and outreach. I mean, it's just that, women have that inherent, I think, that compassionate attitude that is really so important in this
Right.
in this in this sector. So I think, like, I see a lot of women in doing sustainability work, and doing a lot of education and outreach kind of activities.
Right, right. That's nice to hear. Yeah. So, there have been so many changes happening with respect to COVID, especially. And there have been so many talks about how the environment is changing in a positive way. And then on the other end, we have California wildfires and so many things happening on. So, what are some key changes that have been both positive and negative that have happened to the environment and its policies, especially with respect to COVID?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, the this pandemic, really surreal situation, right? That we all are going through all over the world. I mean, this has done one positive thing for the environment. I mean, according to the international agency's global energy review that came out earlier this year, the global energy demand, went down in the first quarter of 2020 by almost 4%. The emissions have reduced by 9% in the US. That has never
Right.
happened. That has never happened in the past, I think, decade and a half.
Wow.
So people are actually experiencing what the environment would be like without, say, cars on the road, without industries spewing smoke or polluting rivers or
Right.
waterways. And moreover, there have also been behavioral changes that have come about. People have cut back on excessive consumption-oriented behaviors. People have been shopping more prudently, eating out less frequently. So
Right.
these are the kind of changes that that have kind of made people think, okay, this is not a bad situation really to be in. But on the negative side, there have been loss of jobs, decline in economic
True.
growth, and the GDP has been declining since the pandemic started. So, and this has led to funds being diverted from environmental projects to those related to economic recovery, and
Right.
so there has been a little bit of a setback. But what environmental think tanks and NGOs have been pushing for is that, let's look at the current situation as some kind of a reset for the economy, and instead of going back to business as usual, let us work towards an economy that's low carbon and sustainable, and use the right policies and investments to kind of move towards a more cleaner, greener future.
Right.
And so, for example, I'll just cite one study that said that for every $1 billion that are invested in zero emission public transport, this will create 50,000 jobs and return about $5 billion in economic activity. So, really, I mean, if we invest wisely, and we can really see the benefits of adopting a more clean and a cleaner lifestyle, and adopting these clean technologies in our daily lives.
Right.
And all this, though, is going to need innovation, in energy efficiency and clean energy technologies and electrification of transportation. So I see a lot of opportunity for technological innovation as we recover from this pandemic.
Right, right. That's nice. That's nice. So now diving on deeper, so environmental protection is a very broad spectrum. There are many applications ranging from utilizing or even generating clean energy, climate change, pollution, and so on. So how do the skills differ across these sectors? So as an environment enthusiast, how do I find which is the right sector for me, and what are the career opportunities present in these different areas? So will you be able to explain us more about it?
Yeah, sure. Actually, environment conservation, or more specifically, like climate change mitigation and adaptation, require many skills at different levels. This area is quite remarkable in that sense. So, from physical sciences, economics, political science to engineering, lawyers, and communication majors, there's a broad spectrum of roles out there. And I mean, it certainly makes you more marketable with a graduate degree, and PhD is required if you want to work in a research lab or work in a top think tank such as Resources for Future or the Brookings Institute. But also, like, acquiring complementary skills can also make you valuable in the job market. So something like I did, right? Like, complemented my engineering degree with economics and policy.
Right.
So that definitely aligned me well for clean energy, to work in the clean energy policy area. Another
Right.
trend I'm seeing is a science degree with specialization in data science or artificial intelligence. So that kind of puts you in a good position to work on, let's say, if you want to do climate modeling, or you want to work on, say, big, analyzing ocean data and
Right.
predictive modeling and forecasting. So those kind of positions. So as far as which sectors to pursue, I think in the environment space, private sector would be more suitable for high tech jobs. I
Okay.
mean, there are core technology companies such as, you have obviously the most famous one, Tesla, and you have Panasonic, Samsung, NRG, SolarOne. Uh, and then there are also a number of companies that are into execution of projects, like such as execution of wind and solar projects. So, so they focus more on like core engineering skills, right?
Right.
And then there are also consulting firms, which consult to, to companies and to industries, and they help them plan and design their, sustainability projects, or
Right.
certain clean energy, kind of projects that they want to, that these companies or industries may want to adopt. So across the supply chain, there are like a lot of different roles for technical people. In the public sector, there are state environment agencies, there are state energy agencies that need engineers to support core functions, such as enforcement of or monitoring of air quality, water quality, and ensuring that regulations are being complied with, right? And then there's, of course, sort of a lot of work in the climate change, clean energy space that that I just told you about, and that I'm involved in.
Right.
But and one thing I would say about the public sector is that things move at a different pace in the public sector because there's so many actors involved. There is there's politics, and there is like interest groups, and so there are a lot of different actors there, a lot of different players. So so things move at a very different pace. But
Right.
one good thing about working in the public sector is that you work in the interest of the taxpayers of the public,
Um,
and there's a sense of doing something for something good, for the society.
yeah.
So it's you get the feeling of doing a good, good in the interest of public service. So in that sense, that's one positive thing I would say about the public sector.
Right.
And then there are other sectors. There are nonprofits, think tanks, advocacy groups, and I'll say about if you're interested in think tanks or nonprofit organizations, they do a lot of policy research, and they publish reports and provide guidance that public agencies and private companies find it useful. So if that's
Right.
kind of work that you want to do, then nonprofits and think tanks would be the sector to kind of look for.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, getting back to the basics, like there are so many innovations happening constantly. So, what are some sites or resources to constantly update ourselves on what's happening in this field?
Yeah, so I'll say I'm a big podcast person.
Okay.
I listen to podcasts to stay in touch with the latest happenings, and my favorite ones are the Energy Gang, Energy Transition Show, NPR's Environment Podcast. So they are top on my list.
Right.
There's also MIT Climate's Climate Conversation podcast. And if you're a business and you want to, you're looking for, what's happening in the corporate sustainability area, and how businesses are seeking solutions to environmental problems, there's Green Biz 350, and there's the Planet Innovation podcast.
Right.
I recently discovered, I'd like to share with you,
Mhm.
Women in Sustainability podcast, which I thought was so interesting because it has women in leadership positions in the sustainability and technology innovation fields, and I really like the conversations that they have on this podcast, and the kind of information, and just to see other really dynamic women in this field doing so well for
Yeah.
themselves and really making a change. I think this audience would love this one.
Right.
And
Right.
then the the other thing is, I subscribe to, newsletters from various news agencies. So there is Inside Climate News, there's Eco Watch, and for local news, there's Environment New Jersey, which where you can get what's happening on a day-to-day basis about
Right.
the environment around you. So,
Yeah.
and one thing I'll say is that with good video conferencing tools nowadays, I would encourage you to attend webinars and virtual conferences.
Right.
It's become so easy nowadays, right, to register and to attend, depending on what areas or what you're interested in, and also to, if you want to, like, generally just learn about a new topic, or
Right.
get a sense of what's going on. So I think since the pandemic, I have attended a lot of virtual conferences that have been so interesting, and which I would not have attended otherwise,
Ah,
physically, right, traveling and
right.
spending time and money and on them. But it is, this the video conferencing has, and these virtual conferences have definitely been very useful.
Yeah. Right. And again, the list of podcasts that you have said are, I think they are really good. And I've also heard about women in sustainaability. I follow
Oh,
them
you
on
have?
so I think it's nice. I should just send out this list on what to follow so that there are so many other environmental enthusiasts here. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and yeah, and if you want, I could, yeah, and if you want, like, any more information on any of these, podcasts, or any other resources, sure, I'd be happy if you can, send me a note, and I'll be happy to share.
yeah, that would be very nice. Like most of us are environmental enthusiasts, but we are not quite sure which information is right, which to rely on, and things like that. So maybe in case to hear from a policy expert on environment, so I think those sources will also be a good source of resource for us to obtain more knowledge on this field. So, I had one more follow up question on this. The resources are really good. Like you listen to podcasts, learn from their experience, and it's all great. But it is always also important to have the experience hands on, right? It helps you discover new opportunities, evaluate your strengths, and knows what's right for you and what's not. So, how does one take up an internship or a side project as a college student or someone with no prior educational degree with respect to environment but want to transition to that domain? So, how do I find those opportunities?
So, uh, I mean, if you have a, if you're a technology person, if you have an engineering or a science background, I think, yes, internships are always, like, the best way to get your foot in the door, to kind of test the waters, right?
Yeah.
And I think companies are very open to, they're not very specific about, hey, what background are you, or what specific. So if you have certain technical analytical skills, I think I've seen that, companies are pretty open to, to give you a chance. So I would look at popular job boards, and there are a lot of clean tech businesses that are currently taking interns. I would look at, Indeed, Monster, Idealist, the popular ones.
Yeah.
And I would also encourage you to join mentorship networks. So there's Society of Women Environmental Professionals, and then there is also this interesting group called Women for Climate.
Right.
Organizes tech challenges and
Mhm.
looking for climate solutions in major cities. And I, I think New York and San Francisco are part of the network. I don't know, but I think there are more U.S. cities. But I just remember New
Right.
York and San Francisco. So so there, so you can get involved and kind of expand your network, and find opportunities through these kind of platforms. And another thing I will mention is the MIT's Climate Collab, which I've always found very interesting. So
Right.
this particular group, they organize international contests related to environment, climate, pollution mitigation and
Right.
sustainability. And so you can participate in them. You can be an observer, or you can actually join, or form your own group and create a or solution for one of the problem areas that they have in their contests. And you can even as an observer, I feel I've never participated, but even as an observer, I've just been awed by the kind of innovations that are happening, and how how people are thinking of really creative ways of overcoming
Right, right.
these problems, right, related to the environment. And finally, I'll also say, if you're really interested in getting into this field, I'd also say volunteer. If you love doing grassroots work, there are a lot of good organizations. There's, you must have heard about Audubon and Sierra Club, and many cities have local green teams. And you can get some hands-on experience. So even as a student, you have some time on weekends. You can get yourself, you can get involved in these kind of volunteering activities. So within that way, you get to know people in the field. You get to who have similar interests as you, and you can expand your network and get opportunities that way.
Right, right. Yeah, that sounds very interesting. So, it will be very nice if you share the list with us after the call so that we also circulate and people get benefited out of it.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah,
I will.
yeah. And now, as we near the end of this, so I just wanted to ask this the part I'm most excited about. So, tell us more about Chirpinest. You mentioned a part about how you started entering into the environmental field with by Chirpinest as a base. So, can you please elaborate more on how did this come into being and things like that?
Yeah, sure. So actually, when my kids were little, my husband and I would always look for things to do with them. And back then, this is about 15 years ago or so, we would always get a supplement with the weekly newspaper, listing all the events and things happening in the area that families could do. But if you wanted to look for something in another part of the state, or we were interested in other activities that were not listed there, I would really have to do some research, you know. And so I decided to design a resource where parents could get the information they need, literally at their fingertips.
Right.
They could search for kid-friendly activities based on the ages of the kids and what type of activity and where they wanted to feel like going that day, right?
Right.
So that is, and then secondly, I also wanted to create an awareness of the local environment in young kids by providing them information about the local flora and fauna, and things that are right in your backyard, or that are native to the region, right? That they could identify with, and that they could be curious about. I feel that nature should not be only taught in textbooks, and where you're always learning about like the rainforests, or the glaciers in Antarctica, or the deserts in Sahara. And I feel like there should also be people should know what is around them,
Yeah.
and try to appreciate what we have right here, right? So that is you know so that was the vision, really, behind Chirpiness.
Right.
And in at that time, like, it was a really innovative concept with not many competitors in the market. So
Yeah.
there was only I believe Go City Kids came a year later, and there was Time Out, which was, I think, known as, had a different name back then. But so basically, it started off as a really really good concept. And we built a good business plan. And so the kind of source of revenue was basically advertisements
Yeah.
from companies, which were, I guess, service and product providers in the children's market, and for and parents, that space, right?
Right.
um, but and then when I decided to go back to school, when I went back to study environment economics and policy, Chapinas kind of went on a break. And as a business, I mean. And though I'm hoping to revive it at some point in time when the next big idea hits me. So that is where it is at, and yeah. So that is basically the kind of story behind it.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. And I think COVID, this situation would be the right time for you to start it again because, like, parents are finding it difficult to have kids at home all the time, and it's nice to know the environment and also take kids around. So,
Actually interesting that you say it, and I was going to kind of get there, but actually right now, like my I mean, right now chirpiness is like my daughter is a high school junior right now, so she has kind of revived it as her high school project, doing exactly what you said, right?
right,
So basically, like, she has created it as an education. She's created it as an educational resource for elementary school kids, and provide. She has put some fun activities and for them to kind of engage in. Since, like, a lot of kids in our neighborhood, they were, all their summer camps got canceled, and
right,
so it was this. So she came up with this idea, and she created these activities and resources for kids. And so exactly like as you said, right? Yes, this is a good time to kind of think about things and how to take it to the next level.
yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, so this brings us to the end of the session, and we'll open the floor for the audience questions. And we have two, three questions currently, and we'll continue taking up questions as they come around. So the first question is that, in general, I mean, this is a general question as an individual, not with respect to someone who's an environmentalist already. So, in general, what are some behavioral changes that a common person can do to protect the environment?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually, because I think about that quite often, and I feel that I mean, I feel, yeah. I mean, we can come up with as many innovations, and technological innovations and great ideas and great products, but really, I think for environmental protection, I think it starts with our behavioral changes.
Right.
It's like, because I think our society has come to a certain point where I think we have we are a very we are a consumeristic society. We have excessive behaviors as far as like consumption, production go. So everything is large scale, and that's really not not good for the environment and not good for our natural resources that are getting depleted.
Yeah.
And so I think like going. I mean, I won't say. I mean, yes, there is a certain. A lot of people are showing interest in the minimalistic kind of living,
Yeah.
right? And which is really nice, but not many people, I think, can just jump to that.
Yeah.
But I think like if everyone makes these little makes some effort in kind of not wasting resources and kind of being more prudent about, let's say, about making trips to the mall, or kind of just making lifestyle changes. I think that would help. Like, for instance, I'll just share one thing that I have been doing for the past, I think, couple of years now. So
Okay.
whenever I go to the mall, I take my own shopping bags,
Ah,
and
right.
because I literally, one time when I was cleaning out my closet, I found like 45 or 47 store bags,
Okay.
and I was like, and I'm not even a big shopper. So that
Okay.
just says, right, I had accumulated all these bags and they were going to go into recycling, just beautiful store bags. And I just felt, hey, this is not good,
Mm.
this is like just a one time use, right? And that's the thing, right? We create so many resources are spent in creating these products, right? And then we just use them once and throw them away.
Yeah.
So that is so I decided to, I always take my own shopping bags to the mall, and sometimes store clerks are very surprised, and they're like, don't you want our store bag? I said, no, I totally love your store bag, but I'm going to just carry my, I'm just going to put the stuff in my bag.
Right.
So, so I mean, things like that, I think, start small and wherever you can, I guess that's what my approach is. Like wherever I can, I will kind of try to cut back.
Right. That's nice. So, I think if we know what we have to do, we'll just at least take some measures to do it. For example, like I just read an article somewhere saying these days there are a lot of disposable masks considering the COVID situation. So I just read an article saying how the birds and the animals in the sea and oceans are getting affected by their legs tying around with the masks or side wings. So they were like, cut it before you throw it off and things like that. So once I read about it, I try to implement that in my real life. But I think the problem with most of us as individuals is that we don't really know how to actually make an impact. So,
yeah, and also because like we get these products in the market, right? But
yeah,
we don't know how to I wouldn't say how to dispose them, or where we don't do a good job when we
true.
are doing a life cycle analysis, right? Okay,
Yeah,
how are these, we and I don't want to undermine the great innovations, right, that are great inventions that we come up with, right, as a society. These are amazing, but I think like in with every amazing innovation, I think we also have to think about, okay, how are we going to dispose this off, or what are we going to do when its life is done, when it at the end of its
right.
life, right? So I think like there is that still missing in our in our society, and I think that is really like I feel it, I mean there is a lot of awareness about
Yeah,
it, but as you said, right, I mean we don't know what to do, or we don't know how to do it, and as a consumer, I think, yeah, we are limited by the knowledge we have, right? I mean,
yeah,
like you would not never have thought about, okay, what do I do? Yeah, like cut the masks up,
yeah,
or so I think like educating the public, and all first and even before that, basically thinking about like the end of life fate of these products,
true.
how are we going to what are we going to do with them, like.
Yeah,
So I think that is important, and actually I like this term called the circular economy. So
right,
in that, we have like we in any process, right? I mean, we have we use say for instance, even like one of the projects that I'm involved in at the DEP is waste management.
right,
And so basically, like you have you create waste, and then you think about, okay, how are you going to dispose them off, either in landfills or in an incinerator. And then but what we are trying to come up with, or what circular economy does, is that think about how to reuse these these end products, right? So
right,
basically, instead of incinerating them, think about how you can reuse them, how you can recycle them,
right.
and bring them back into the economy. And so what we are suggesting, in one of my recommendations to the department, is that use anaerobic digesters to break the wastes. And
Right,
so you create methane, you create carbon dioxide, and you create sludge that can be used as a fertilizer. So instead of
right,
just burning everything off and creating more pollution, think about ways that how you can process it, so that and create more and create other valuable products out of
right.
the process. So I think, like, I mean, this is just one example about in waste management, but I think in every sector, I feel that one can think about it in that from that point of view, to adopt a circular economy approach.
Right. That's interesting. So we have one more question. So in case we have the time to take up, can we proceed with that question and then before we end this
Yeah,
meeting? Yeah.
yeah,
So
sure.
yeah. So I think this question is interesting. This is from the perspective of an entrepreneur. So how do we stress the importance of environmental protection in our idea while raising funds, while there are other situations like hunger, poverty, etc.
Um, I mean, so is this a question? So is this a question about environment protection versus hunger, poverty? I think at least, or maybe I guess I'm interpreting it that way. But I think this, yeah. It's hard to really kind of pick one over the other,
Yeah,
or it's really hard because all these issues are, hunger and poverty are also really important issues
right.
that need to be dealt with. But what I would say is that if we were to think about these as like holistic situations that can have holistic solutions,
Yeah,
then I think we can we can probably leverage even environment, protecting the environment, to a level as important as like hunger or poverty. Let's say why are people, maybe why in a I'm just giving an example,
yeah,
but let's say, like, why is there poverty in a particular region? Let's say maybe can environmental protection, or the local environment, can that be kind of tapped into to improve their economic situation,
right,
right, and end poverty that way? Or if there's hunger, can agriculture, or prevention of environmental degradation, will that help that region grow better crops, or maybe have better transportation, so that they
right,
can have food delivered to them, or so I think I think, yeah, it's really hard to like pick one over the other. But I
right.
think I think I think to at a certain level, these issues are interrelated, or can be interrelated. And
True.
I think if we can find that kind of connection, I think as an entrepreneur, whatever your idea is, or your innovation is, I think it can be leveraged.
Right, right. Makes sense. So, and I'm not so clear of the specifics, but this just reminds me of how Elon Musk raised his fundings for Tesla by getting some fund from the central federal government and things like that. I'm not quite sure of the how he got it, but the answer you said was something along those lines. How he was able to differentiate the importance of environmental protection, how Tesla could manage that through clean energy and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really like how you sell it, right in the end.
True.
Like how you present it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time today. So these were the questions we had. It was
Yes.
so nice having you here, and this conversation was so lively.
Yeah, and thank you so much. Really, I enjoyed talking with you, and I enjoyed answering your questions. I hope I was able to help, and I hope the audience found it useful.
Yeah.
And I will definitely, after the talk, I'll share the resources that I
Yeah.
mentioned. And it was really nice to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And
Okay.
do check out our newsletter for the recording of the session. And we have our YouTube channel where we would list out everything. So thank you so much for joining.